not having the time to train, I'll discuss this one in detail. Unfortunately, cycling is a time poor sport. I always joke how, we say to our partners, honey, I'm going to go out on my bike for a ride. I'll see you in 3 or 4 hours. And then when you get back, you're smashed. You're not any use to anybody. You just want to lay on the couch or have a bit of a sleep. So it's one of those sports where we can gain a lot of efficiencies in our training. Although, there's no magic wand that we can wave over people to make them awesome athletes with them, only doing a couple of hours a week. But that being said, we can certainly maximize the time that they're doing on the bike and getting really efficient gains from that without wasting a lot of time. And I've really specialized in that area. We've worked with some athletes that have had some pretty big time constraints around them and getting awesome results. So I'll cover that off a little bit later on the slides as well. So not training efficiently. I've put down here doing junk kilometers and poor match. So the first thing I'll talk about is junk kilometers. Look, I'm a big fan of base training, getting out there on the bike and doing low intensity training. I'm also a big fan of doing medium intensity and high intensity training at the right time, in the right level and the right part of your program. We'll talk about how we periodize that a little bit later on. So that's really important, that you're actually training efficiently. So the time that you're spending on the bike is actually meaning something. It's actually making a change or getting you better. Now, there's a lot of training that you do that may not necessarily be helping you get fit. And this is where the poor match comes in, which I mentioned before, which was tip 3. It's like if you're doing a whole lot of training and it's not a good match to what you're doing, then you're just training inefficiently. You're wasting time because the training you're doing, you may be spending time on the bike doing training, but it might not actually be helping you with the events that you're riding for. So that's really important, to make sure that your training is really efficient, because another big issue is poor development of technique and really working on a good, efficient pedal stroke. That means that you're able to put out more power for longer periods of time with more comfort. So effectively you're riding faster. Kind of liken it to the wax on, wax off stuff that happens, in Karate Kid when Miyagi talks to Daniel about waxing on and waxing off on the car. It's a great story, and it's a great parallel to a lot of the training that we do. We work a lot on technique, and it's amazing because I get people that once they've worked on the technique, they go out there and ride, and suddenly they're riding so much better. We haven't smashed out an epic high intensity training session. We haven't wrecked them or smacked them over, and they get out there and suddenly they're riding faster. And they haven't had to suffer. It hasn't hurt them. They're just riding better. So technique's really, really important. All right, poor focus on leg and core strength. Years ago, cyclists used to be, certainly in the racing fraternity 20, 30 years ago, cyclists used to work in the trades, and they spent a lot of time shifting stuff around and lifting things and on step ladders and that sort of thing. Nowadays, there's a lot of power tools that are replacing a lot of that. But nowadays, most of the people are behind desks all day and have got really poor function and really poor strength, especially core strength. And we spent quite a bit of time addressing this because it was a big issue with people that are coming onto our training program. We need to get people up to speed, and we developed functional strength training program, and everybody that gets onto our training programs goes through this functional strength training. So it's really necessary to work on that function. And it's a key component to making yourself more comfortable on the bike and also helping reduce injury and also fatigue. So you'll find that when you work on good functional strength training, it becomes, your riding becomes a lot easier, a lot better. You also feel a lot younger as well. All right. So poor training balance. So a lot of people, they kind of tend to favour one aspect or another. If they're sort of more a sprinter, they'll tend to favour shorter intervals and stuff like that, and they really suffer on endurance events. And if you're an endurance person, you generally focus on more endurance-based stuff and forget the intervals, and suddenly, you find that you can't manage the little surges that happen in bunches. All right. So I'm going to talk about how we resolve these issues. I'm going to get quite deep into this one, so hang with me as we get through these slides, because you're going to get some really good information here.